said so say we all? Okay, stand up, say that again. There you go. Come on now. So say we all. Come on, do the Edward Almost version. Here we go. Everybody, so say we all. One more time. So say we all. One more time. So say we all. Okay. Big hand. I gotta tell you, it's really hard to watch yourself 35 years ago when I didn't have to hold my stomach in. I was on Baywatch once, and no take is longer than 3 minutes because none of the actors could hold their stomach in for longer than 3 minutes. I'm not kidding you. You know, it's really interesting watching, you know, you're getting a chance to see both shows, the things you remember. Obviously, we had fans who loved the original that didn't love the new show. You had fans of the new show that hated the original. You have some who like both shows. The interesting thing is going to be where they go now. What topography, what drama topography do they cover now that they haven't covered before? The question is, are you open to a whole new cast? Would you like to see the new show, the new version reimagined, brought forward? What would you like? So we're going to get as many of you as possible kind of getting into the dialogue about what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of. And the reason I wanted to go into this today, and this is really important, we're in a new world, a new age, a new time when studios are having to realize that there's got to be a relationship between us fans, right, and the studios, the networks, and the kind of programming they do. They have to learn to listen to what you want. And I think this is your chance to realize that we all have a voice in where things go, but we have to be vocal. We have to stand up. We have to let people know what you would like to see. So the question is, what would you like to see? And I promise you, there are eyes and ears out there listening to you. There's been no more powerful time when fans could be more of an integral, powerful part of the equation, and they will be listening to what you would like to see that will get woven into the script. And so think about it. If you're online, if you're part of social networks, start dialoguing about it. It's going to be an interesting thing, I think, because with the two shows, where would they go? Tom DeSanto and Bryan Singer, who did X-Men, of course, they were going to do a new version of Battlestar before the new reimagined version with Ron Moore came forth. And he was going to go 30 years down the line from the original and see where they would be. Bringing some of the originals back, adding a new generation born in space, a little bit of what I did in my books, but a different story. The question now is, I don't think that's the plan, but the question is, where else could they go and explore new territory? Where they could go and explore new ideas, new concepts, new things. So think about what you would like to share, and then we'll get into that dialogue. And before we start this, obviously, I want to introduce you to a few guests I have here. I'm sure, I don't know how many of you were at the Battlestar auctions. Talk about a hard thing, watching all those things you were on set with and loved and had a connection to, all of a sudden being sold. I found my Tom Zarek jacket walking out the door, and I tried to buy it back from the guy, and he wouldn't sell it. And of course I took him out, you know, like Tom Zarek. But the guy that ran that auction, plus he ran auctions for all the other major shows. He's the owner, producer, executive of Propworks. He's also a good friend of mine for 20 years, and he is producing. And we're going to play this at the end of the panel today. But I'm part of a thing which I think is going to be epic. It's going to be the biggest Trek indie film I think ever made. And they have Kate Vernon's going to be in it. Michael Hogan's going to be in it. I'm in it, and a whole slew of really wonderful, talented, gifted actors. We're going to play a little sizzle reel for it, and on Saturday night, they're actually doing the 20-minute premiere at the Horton Plaza theaters. If any of you are interested, you know, let us know, and we'll show you where it is. But in the meantime, I want to introduce Mr. Alec Peters. Give him a big hand as he comes on board. Alec is going to help us in terms of hosting this panel and keeping us on track and keeping the discussion interesting. Thank you, Alec. And of course, now we have one of the most delicious writer-producers, funny, quirky, exciting, intelligent, visionary. Her name is Jane Espenson, obviously from Buffy. evening. Good to see you. You are hot, by the way. Seriously.
Thank you.
Now, Kevin Grazier. If you know Kevin, how many people know Kevin Grazier in here? I'm sure you're going to be going to a number of his panels this weekend. He is the science nerd. All the women at Comic-Con usually find a way to say hello to. He's stuck on the freeway, but he will be here as soon as he can. Oh my God, he's here. Okay, get up. All right, Kevin, come on up here. Kevin Grazier, give him a big hand. Kevin, of course, is the science consultant for Battlestar, Eureka, Fallen Sky, what else? Huh? Defiance? How many people are watching Defiance? Good.
How many are loving Defiance this season?
Luciana just called me, and again, you know, how we actors are flaky, what can I say? You know, we try our best, but she couldn't make it. She had an audition. She had to stay in town, but she won't be here. In terms of Jamie Bamber, honestly, I don't know if the Jamie Bamber fan club is here. Are they here anywhere? Well, honestly, I got mixed reports. I got a report that he's working Thursday and Friday. He'll be here over the weekend, so he will be here. And then I heard he will be here. So if he shows up, we'll all give him a big hand and welcome him, but I'm not sure where that's going to be. All right. The show's yours, Alec?
All right.
You're on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to, you know, Richard and I, we live like 2 minutes from each other, and I also am one of his acting students. Actually, I took my first acting class with him 20 years ago. After the 15th anniversary Battlestar Galactica convention, he was pimping his acting classes, and I said, why not? And so, we talked about, what did we want to talk about? And let's not just have the same old questions all the time. But I do want to ask, this is the one question I hear asked of Richard more than any other question. And so I'm going to ask it.
Can I have a hug?
Can I have a hug?
You're going to say what?
Thanks for spoiling my line, Kevin. You're fired. Okay, so, in the vein of looking, Richard really wants us to talk about where do we go with this? And we've talked ad nauseum, I'm sure we've all talked about how great Battlestar is. I consider it simply the greatest science fiction series of all time, bar none. So say we all. Can I have so say we all?
So say we all.
Thank you. And I'm a huge Star Trek fan. There's no bigger Star Trek fan than me, but Battlestar is the best science fiction ever. And we've all talked about why it is. So let me start off this panel, and I'm going to start this off, ladies first, by asking the beautiful and talented Jane.
There's a lady here?
Yeah. What didn't Battlestar do that you would have liked to have visited something, either because it was only 4 seasons, it could have been longer, or that it just wound up on the bottom of the writing room floor?
I felt bad that we didn't get as much diversity in the show, particularly LGBT, until the webisodes. I think establishing that Lieutenant Gaeta was gay earlier in the run of the show would have been a service to the world. And I always felt like, you know, we spent that year in Baltar's hair. I'd be very curious to go back and see more of that year. Maybe that's something that could be, you know, explored more in a future incarnation.
Great. Okay, Richard. What do you think? What is the area of Battlestar that you would think that there was a lost opportunity?
Boy, you really want to ask me this question?
And don't just limit it to Tom's acting.
Oh, I know. You know, every actor, seriously, especially, I think more so on Battlestar than just about anything I've been involved in, but we get personally attached, we get emotionally attached to the characters we play. And what happens to the characters, you know, affects us. And so, it did affect me a little bit getting blown out the airlock. I felt I was feeling a lack of love and support, and honestly, in terms of Tom Zarek, I would have loved to have had one final scene with Jamie Bamber. You know, I started my first episode with Jamie Bamber and kind of introduced, you know, Tom Zarek, and I would have loved to have had, like Gaeta did with Baltar, right? You had that last scene before they got blown out the airlock. I would have liked to have had that last moment just to get into a little bit of the underbelly, backstory, and understanding of where Tom Zarek was coming from. Because I think it was a very enigmatic kind of character that people, I think in many cases, misunderstood where his motivations were. I mean, how can you get upset at killing the entire quorum when... Did somebody laugh?
Somebody's upset, clearly.
Did I upset? Oh, I'm sorry.
Too soon.
Okay. You know, anyway, the point was is that I would have loved to have seen that. But I think in terms of the story, I just love I want to get into the struggle, because here you are in the confines of space. You are going where no man or woman has gone before. You are having to deal with insurmountable challenges, life and death challenges, logistics, where you never know if you're going to have enough food, enough water, enough resources to make it to the next destination. How many people have to die? How many choices would you have to make in terms of who would live, who would die? And you would have to make those choices because there wouldn't be enough resources for everybody. And I would have loved to have seen that life and death kind of edge every single week, and really kind of maybe going on the path of saying, where did those people that 13th tribe call it, those that went before us, that maybe made it to Earth, where did they go? And it would be an off-course, on-course type of a journey where sometimes you find remnants from what came before you and left behind. Maybe they, you know, got involved with the indigenous society of that planet and left some kind of remnants of where they were. But it would be like piecing together a map, trying to find the journey to where this mythological place called Earth was. I would have liked to have seen more of that life and death journey and making it from destination to destination. Again, you had so many wonderful characters. It's very challenging to be able to get into the backstory of every character. And that's one of the reasons why I always felt the show needed about 5 more years. What do you say? The 5 more years is what they had? Yeah. I would have loved a little more time.
I agree with you on the Tom Zarek piece about having a final talk between Tom and Jimmy Member and Apollo, because for me, that scene between Baltar and Gaeta, when Gaeta's telling him about, I thought about being an architect when I was, it sends chills up my spine. And it was as great an actor as I think James Callis is, that was his finest piece of acting in the entire series. And I looked at that as inspiration, you know, for acting is something of the quality of that. So let's pass it then on to Kevin. Why don't you answer the same question? Where's the direction that you think there was a missed opportunity on Battlestar?
Actually, I would love to see, and then well done for finding a question I've never asked, or never answered, I mean. I would love to see a director's or producers or heck, a science advisor's cut of 33. Because when I got 33, you know, I had like a 5-minute interview with Ron, and he hands me the Bible and it's the first episodes. I get home, and I open 33, I got like literally 3 pages in, and I called the woman I was dating at the time, I said, oh my God. I live in the valley. I have just been hired on the greatest science fiction show ever. And she said, not that you're biased or anything, but really, I mean, it took 3 pages to figure that out. And what 33 did in the original, that 33 didn't do in the final version, was that when they destroy Olympic Carrier, I would argue that when they establish there's nukes on board, there's no moral dilemma there whatsoever. From that point on, we should have left the Olympic Carrier behind and forgotten about it because it was a danger to the entire human race. But in the first version that Ron wrote, the carrier is barreling towards the fleet. It's not answering its hails. We don't ever establish that there were nukes on board, and when Apollo and Starbuck do flyby, they see people in the window. So you know there's 1,365 people aboard Olympic Carrier, and they decide to kill it anyway. That was a moral dilemma that I just think just sat wrong with, you know, the higher ups saying, wow, do we like really want to do this? I mean, obviously we went to places like that further on when, you know, people got kind of desensitized to all the darkness, but that was just, we just jumped right into the dark from the word go, and it was amazing, the script, and I'm just really kind of sorry we didn't do that version. So I'd love to see that version when there actually is a moral dilemma and there is something to chew on over 4 seasons.
Or that maybe they detected nukes, but they still saw the people on them, and then it's like, whoa, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense.
That was actually an intermediate version. It really was.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, great. Before we get into directing Battlestar forward, the one question I have to ask, and I have a little personal interest because of my relationship with Richard. Richard's my acting coach. Obviously, we all feel, and I know Richard tells so many wonderful stories about the working as an actor on Battlestar. I'm not interested in that right now. What I want to know is, and I'm going to start with Jane, you had this unbelievable ensemble that you were writing for. How much do you, as a writer, take into account, God, you know, I want to see Richard take Tom Zarek here, as opposed to just, hey, here's the character, and we're writing the character, and here's the story goes. So, tell us a little. You
have to start with theme. You have to start with what the episode is about, and you want to write the scenes that point at that, and that dictates it. Within that, though, there are definitely choices where you go, okay, which actors are going to have this conversation, and you lean toward your good actors. And the wonderful thing about Battlestar was this incredible depth of field that you could pluck any of the actors and know you were going to get a good performance. And I mean, that's just amazing, because I've been on a lot of shows where you're like, gee, we'd love to tell a story with this theme, but that would require a lot of scenes from this actor who we don't feel is up to it yet. So Battlestar, you didn't have to have those dilemmas. You could let the theme lead you anywhere, use any of the actors that served it. And so there wasn't a lot of like, we want to see a scene between these two characters. It was much more like, we want to tell this story. Hey, look, within that story, these characters come together that have never had a scene together before, or whatever, one of this depth. It was just, you could do anything. You could look in any direction. It's like when you stand at Disneyland, unlike any other theme park, there's places you can stand in Disneyland and look around and the illusion isn't broken. You don't see part of a parking garage. Battlestar was that. Anywhere you stood and looked around, there was more Battlestar and it was all good.
And as just a follow-up question to that, I know Richard talks a lot about the improvisation that was allowed on set, and the chemistry between the actors, and you know, scenes take you somewhere as an actor, or you get into a certain place and you wind up not where you're expecting to be. As a writer, how does that make you feel? Were there times where you said, wow, I didn't think about that? Or maybe there were times where you said, just stick to the page. Right? Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I came from a background that was a just stick to the words kind of background. On a Joss Whedon show, there wasn't improv on the set. On most of the shows I've been on, and particularly in sitcoms, you have to say the line exactly because it is setting up the punchline, so the words have to be exactly right to set up the punchline. This is the only show I've ever been on where there was this much freedom coming from the set of actors rewriting the lines, finding new moments. Baltar would throw out entire speeches and make up his own speech, and it would be better, which was really frustrating. Because you're like, what the heck? He's throwing out my speech. That speech is gorgeous. I spent up all night writing that speech. This is going to be trash. And then you listen to it and you go, oh, fuck. That was really good. That had layers I didn't have. So on this show, it worked. And I couldn't believe it because of the tradition I'd come from. I couldn't believe that the show was getting better, not worse, when you took your hands off the controls. But it really did consistently.
And real quickly, Richard, what kind of interaction do the actors have with the writing staff? And was it compared to other shows you've been on?
You know, it's really interesting because so often, you know, it is hard to change lines because a lot of times the producer, the writer of that episode is not around. And, you know, so they tend to want you to stay, you know, with what they wrote. But I'll tell you, a lot of times, especially today, they let you improv a little before, a little after. That way you don't change what has been written.
Yeah, you get one take or two takes with the scripted line, and then you're allowed to, like...
But I heard James really was probably the most prolific in his, improving with scenes yet.
Yeah.
But the nice part was on this show, and I have to be honest, I've been in this business, almost 50 years, believe it or not. And I've been on many, many shows. And every show has a different personality. Every show has a different kind of set of egos that are dealing. But the relationship between the writer, director, producers, and actors was the most collaborative I've ever seen in my life. You had 5, 6 handheld cameras. And you would have the writer-producer of each episode on set working with you.